Chili here with Serious Thousand, and while we are caretaking for a video, yes, that's still that video. Uh, let's talk about Rahu in Fomelhaut, because Rahu conjoining Fomelhaut is Rahu conjoining the royal fixed star that denotes of the wisdom of the bottom of the ocean. And with Jupiter exalted, this conjunction can bring about a lot of resolutions to issues that have been so invisible. Now, Fomelhaut can be about psychic protection, but also spiritual growth. And one of the things that were happening to me was meditating. And with this route Fomelhaut, I found myself kind of permeating the deep, going into deeper and deeper um, sense of groundedness that's not an escape, but actually focusing so much on what matters and allowing timelines to slip away that are manufactured against well-being. And at this time with Fomelhaut travel, a lot of people might become aware of various hidden facets, usually nonverbal. If something is visible, we're gonna see the non-visible efforts behind it. Um, and with Fomelhaut, people might be suddenly aware of the many things that are trying to unnaturally divert the waters to places that are not compatible with the essence of the person. Now, it is both a self-spiritual growth, self-gnosis, and this is where people, kind of allow things to fall away, to wither away. Now, with Fomelhaut, here is the difference. I can give example. I have Jupiter in the 11th house, and I was kind of that person where I can't say I was living in my own world, but I was just living my life. And I remember once when I was in academia, a classmate approached me, and he was telling me there was a lot of gossip. And I'm like, well, I don't know why. And that he was kind of wanting to inform me of many things that were kind of like not related to me, and it was kind of like advocating for me. And here's the thing, I never understood why. To this day, by the way, because I'm like, well, isn't there a lot of gossip on a lot of people? Well, I have Neptune midheaven, but also Uranus in the decan of Sagittarius that can draw that. But here's the thing, I was not aware of that. So I was just living my life, and if people were saying, oh, people are talking and people are this, and I'm like, let them. Okay? Let them. Um, until it accumulated to something that began to incredibly harm me, to my survival. Now, because I myself did not carry the prejudice that other people carried, then I'm not saying that I wouldn't have biases or anything like that. Not at all. But I was not coming from, whatever perspectives other people were coming from. So I went completely unaware, living my life, and then whatever was behind me is kind of like it wasn't even permeating the waters. Fomelhaut has a different notion. Fomelhaut sees, senses, but also has the spiritual growth and the wisdom. And it has the wisdom to listen, see, and let things kind of like um, wash away, or let the timeless that those things try to manufacture wash away. Now, here's the difference. With me, a lot of things would compound to backfire without me even knowing, because I was simply not aware. So a person is not aware, then they're not even knowing people are gossiping, I don't know what not. They're just living their lives, and anything that was supposed to latch on or something like that basically compounds. But Fomelhaut does a different thing. It's the wisdom of seeing, knowing, understanding that there are some people trying to manufacture some things and really holding in on our own essence, what actually matters. Now, here is the drama. Let's say, I don't know, COVID, I had to escape and so on and so forth. I'm not, at that point, I'm not paying, how should I say, I'm not beginning to ruminate. I just live my life to the best of my ability, deal with what I deal with, and so on and so forth. Then, let's say I return to the same, to around the same place, or the same town, or the same region I had to get away or escape from, and people are confronted with something that's not healed. Their stories do not compound. Now, I have no idea what were the stories, but the stories do not compound. Now, then I begin to talk about, well, my experience or the spiritual warfare or issues that are happening in the world, and then people naturally see, well, this person and those stories that were told about them just do not compound. Now, I have no idea what were those stories. And here's the thing. Let's say, I don't know, I escaped a situation that became violent during COVID with someone that prior to that I thought was the best. I'm like, a lot of people were tortured. I was tortured. Maybe they were tortured. Or they were going through a rough time. Or I don't know, maybe they had, like, I don't know, they were venting, like, full vent. And because of this naivete, it's 9/11. Because what, whatever buildings they were building, if somebody was doing something more violent, let's say, I don't know, broke up with a friend, or for other people it can be romantic relationships, and people vent. And I'm like, well, a part of healing is venting, and they need to vent, and so on. And so we're like, and then some like, no, that's worse than that. I'm like, okay, what on earth could be more like? And so I had even a case where a neighbor met me at the post office, and I told her a little bit about what happens, and then she says, "Oh, talking about that person, they were so and so and so and so and so," and I was like, "Well, the person I knew was actually like that, like that, like that, like that." And here's the thing: this is where she knows that I know nothing, that I have no clue. And those type of things compound, but they compound also because of the ignorance and naivete. Also, if somebody would have told me, hey, that person said about you so and so and so and so and so and so and so, I would say, um, let's say you're right. If the people believed them, because the structure of the story, let's say, I don't know what, think about the Me Too. The structure is such that if a person doesn't align with basically will and consent and honor and dignity, then they would be more susceptible to believing victim blaming. Okay? A good lover, a companion, and a friend would not be so susceptible to, let's say, okay, believe all kinds of stuff that would frame victims of trafficking and shame them. And thus what happens is that it becomes a division. Okay, think about the time of the Me Too. It was kind of like they were the people that were good lovers and good companions, and they had they had something going for them, and they could discern. And then there were the people that weren't, and that showed in their opinion around the Me Too. Mhm. Now, and there were there's just a child is playing peekaboo with me, and now this is the thing where hello. They be playing peekaboo, and I cannot stop because that would be betraying the child. Oh, hello. Um, but now with Fomelhaut, we can sense the weird things that people try to bring up. And we can also permeate the sense that they do that because of whatever they were doing. Fomelhaut tends to the hidden. So a lot of people that even practice the occult in a way that is not transparent. For example, if I talk about this video, where I talk about how mass extinction of lineages, while the child is playing peekaboo with me, hello, happens, it's completely transparent. While other people, if they basically are going with something that's not aligned, then the faces and the actions are beginning to be exposed. Now with Fomelhaut we can get we can really get what they're trying to do. We can also really get what they're in. If somebody, let's say, I don't know, my cats were sacrificed where, or it was suddenly missing when I lived in a place that was trying to traffic me when I was a teenager, then then let's say a person is trying to um, make as though I was the one that was doing that, which could clearly be shown that I wasn't. Now I know that this type of practice is MK Ultra, so I'm saying, okay, that person is receiving income from MK Ultra, but MK Ultra was affiliated with Epstein ring, so that person has been with the Epsteins. Now I know about that. And then I see where that person tries to portray if somebody was crazy. And I'm like, but the cure for schizophrenia is causing first abolishing any targeting towards the person and then listening to their testimony, because it's actually an intelligent strategic advantage, by the way, over MK Ultra, which Finland has practiced against the KGB. And I'm like, yeah, that isn't that the technique that they use to try to collapse all the faiths and the beliefs and the practices of people to loot land, since kind of like the Mongols or the Genghis Khans. But here's the thing, they don't abolish rape and slavery. And now it's not the ignorance that calls. If I think about my first part of life, it was like, or before this, Rahu, I don't know when was the last time Rahu, it would have been 18 years ago. So Ketu was here 9 years ago, or 9 to 12 years ago, which would be, for 2026, we would have been in the Me Too. And that was when I was writing a satire about what I now know was Epstein Ridge. And now here's the thing, I was in my studies, um, I was severely affected by the 2008 crisis. There was attempted ritual abuse on me, and I simply did not know that, but I knew very well, it's kind of like, I don't have money to study. Everything is corrupt and I begin to be sick. I have a mental crisis, and then back then I wanted to unalive myself, so I was like, okay, give me studies or give me death. And I got studies, so then I was like busy studying. And then at around the Me Too, I think before that was also that classmate that approached me. And he wasn't telling me what, but he was like, oh, there's a lot of gossip and so on and so forth. And I'm like, okay. Now, here's the thing, the person that basically was assigned to try to join me to that room, there were a lot of rumors about them, but I'm not the type of person that listens to rumors. So, somewhere along the lines, basically, kid to Fomelhaut would also be, I guess, to purge gossip or purge the effects of gossip. But this would have been before the Me Too. If we take 12 years back, it would have been, well, it would have been in a place where I remember what happened there, if that's the case. There was another thing about somebody who was thinking that I was reading their gossip, and I'm like, no, darling, I was reading your profile presenting yourself as a single man when you're in a long-term relationship with someone. Because something was bothering me about with the entire situation. And that person was intelligence, very likely. Probably so is the friend. And I was just thinking, oh my gosh, this is a real funny story. But the minute I was writing to him and to his friend, to his girlfriend, I was sick before that, then I was writing, and then I began to be healthy. Immediately I was writing, and then no more sickness. Until this day, I don't know what happened. I'm not the type to like expose people's this and that. Like, I don't know. I was just sick, 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 sick. I'm like seeing that, and I'm like, poof, writing and writing everything like very honestly, and then boom, no longer sick. And I was like obsessed with the story. There's something really weird, and then the minute I was purging that, boom. Now this was not gossip. This was actually true. And that's it. I didn't care if they stayed together or not. Like that's something I remember was so weird, and that could have been Keter from out. I guess he was trying to do lover boy on people, which is trafficking. And she was some lawyers of women rights, which was like one of the feminist groups in Israel and so on and so forth. And then she was tending to delegalizing prostitution or something like that, but by the client side. Only now I think about this, because like the person was flirting with me, and it was not adding me on Facebook, and I'm like, that's weird. Now the entire thing could have been a coincidence. It could have been like a Mercury retrograde. He didn't notice it, but the thing that was coming to be exposed was bigger than all the weird and and that's it. It was like that's it. Very funny. Now, 18 years ago, for 2026, what that would have been 18 years ago. It would have been in 2008. That's the subprime crisis, and that was when they were trying to do ritual abuse. I was trying to work, and suddenly I speak with a person, and I'm the most secular person in the world, and suddenly it's like I was saying the Shabbat prayer. There was nothing on it. I was not taking any pills. I was something very weird, and I'm like, that never happened to me. And it was bothering with my ability to work. They were trying to forcibly make me religious, and I'm like, I'm not religious. And now I understand it's one of those trafficking schemes. Also in 2007, they're trying to make me religious. But then in Europe, there was the kidnapping of Madeleine. Okay? And that was Ralph Fomelhaut. Now, for me, I just found it very weird and didn't understand anything. I was working in a place that was selling like washing machines and setting the appointment to install them. Again, nothing to do with religion. And then it would go through a series of corruption in the workplaces, which would eventually lead to me losing my ability to work. Um, this is what I think about this Ralph Fomelhaut. No, this is insane. This is look how many attempts to upload the same video. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Really, I thought maybe they don't like the word metaphysics. Maybe something to do with justice. But like Epstein was supposed to be like, why are they blocking this video?